The 1960s, a decade everyone remembers as glamorous, swinging, and full of promise. But behind the Beatles and miniskirts was a Britain that would look shockingly different through modern eyes. What people accepted, expected, and never questioned then would make most of us pause today. If you enjoy remembering how Britain really used to be, don't forget to subscribe. There's plenty more to come. Let's step back to that world, the rules, habits, and beliefs that once shaped daily life, and see just how much has changed. Let's begin with number 1. Getting married before moving in. If you told your parents in 1965 that you were moving in with someone before marriage, they might have fainted. Living together was seen as sinful, irresponsible, and socially disgraceful, especially for women. Landlords could refuse you a flat if you weren't married, and neighbors would whisper if they saw 2 toothbrushes in the same cup. Respectable girls didn't live in sin, as the saying went. Marriage wasn't just tradition. It was the border between right and wrong. Today, most couples live together long before tying the knot. But in 1960s, even admitting you stayed overnight was scandalous. Number 2. Dads who didn't change. Nappies. Fatherhood in the 60s came with firm boundaries. Provide, protect, but for heaven's sake, don't touch the nappies. Babies were mom's job. If a man pushed pram, neighbors assumed he was just helping out. Changing nappies, cooking meals, or staying home with the kids simply wasn't expected or encouraged. The image of a good father was someone reading the newspaper while mom managed chaos around him. It wasn't neglect, it was normal. Today's dads are praised for being hands-on, but back then a man seen hanging nappies on the line wrist, becoming the talk of the street. Number 3. Kids playing without supervision. Children roamed freely. Fields, streets, and parks were their world. No mobile phones, no check-ins, no tracking apps. You left after breakfast, came home at dark, and no one panicked. Scraped knees, bruises, even broken bones were part of growing up. Parents worried, quietly but rarely intervened. Today it sounds reckless. Back then it was freedom. A world where imagination replaced screens and childhood was measured in mud, not megabytes. Number 4. Smoking while pregnant. It sounds absurd now, but doctors once recommended it. Medical posters suggested smoking could reduce stress for expectant mothers. Magazines showed glamorous women in maternity wear cigarette in hand. And because everyone smoked, husbands, friends, even midwives, no one thought twice. Only years later did the evidence emerge, and the shock was profound. In the 1960s, lighting a cigarette after a prenatal appointment was practically routine. Number 5. Divorce as a disgrace. Few things carried more social shame than divorce. It wasn't just a legal process, it was a moral failure. Neighbors whispered, relatives judged, and churches frowned. Women were often blamed, men pied. Even after the 1969 Divorce Reform Act, it remained taboo. Children from broken homes were treated differently, pied, or avoided. The idea of remarrying was scandalous, especially for women. Today, divorce is seen as part of life. Back then, it could end your reputation overnight. Number 6. Gender roles everywhere. Every advert, magazine, and TV show reinforced one message. Men lead, women follow. Husbands mowed lawns and earned paychecks. Wives cleaned, cooked, and smiled through it all. Even the toys followed suit. Boys got cars and soldiers. Girls got dolls and toy irons. It wasn't questioned. It was structure. Household products were marketed with slogans like "because that's her job," and people agreed. Looking back, it's jarring. But in the 1960s, equality wasn't a topic. It was a fantasy. Number 7. Women leaving work after marriage. Many companies had an unwritten rule. Once a woman got married, she was expected to resign. Married women's jobs were seen as temporary until a husband came along. Banks, offices, and schools quietly pushed women out, assuming they'd be too busy keeping house. Those who stayed were often called selfish or pied. It was believed that working women took jobs away from men. Today, the idea sounds absurd, but in the 1960s, a woman choosing career over family was viewed with suspicion, not admiration. Number 8. Keeping emotions to yourself. The phrase stiff upper lip wasn't just cultural. It was expected behavior. You didn't talk about feelings. You didn't cry in public. If you struggled, you kept it quiet. Depression wasn't a medical issue. It was being moody, grief, anxiety, loneliness. These were private matters to be faced silently and with tea. Therapy was almost unheard of, and mental health carried heavy stigma. Today, people share openly, encouraged to talk it out. But in the 60s, silence was strength and vulnerability was seen as weakness. Number 9. Dressing up for everything. People in the 1960s in Britain dressed properly. And by properly, they meant formally. You wouldn't dream of popping to the shops in a tracksuit or jeans. Men wore ties to the pub. Women wore gloves to church. And even children had best clothes for visiting relatives. Clean shoes, pressed trousers, tidy hair. It wasn't vanity. It was respectability. Looking smart meant you belonged. Today's casual world would have seemed sloppy, even rude. In the 60s, appearance wasn't about fashion. It was a moral statement. Number 10. Doctors you didn't question. The family doctor was practically divine. If he said, "Take these pills," you did. No second opinions, no Google searches, no discussions. Doctors smoked during consultations, called patients dear, and never explained side effects. People trusted them completely, sometimes too much. Medicine was a matter of faith, not knowledge. Today's patient autonomy would have been unthinkable. Number 11. Keeping up appearances. In the 1960s, reputation mattered more than reality. Families worked hard to seem respectable. Clean doorstep, polished shoes, tidy children. You didn't air problems publicly. Behind closed doors, life could be chaotic. But outside, the curtain stayed open and the smiles stayed fixed. Neighbors were both friends and judges. A perfect garden or freshly painted door wasn't pride. It was proof you were decent. Today, we chase authenticity. Back then, people survived on appearances. Number 12. Racial and cultural ignorance. Written in the 1960s was becoming more diverse, but understanding lagged far behind. Immigrants from the Caribbean, India, and Africa faced daily prejudice. Casual racism was socially acceptable in language, in jokes, even in job adverts. The color bar existed quietly in pubs and housing. Few questioned it, fewer challenged it. To modernize, it's unthinkable. But in the 1960s, many saw it as just the way things were. Progress took decades, and the echoes of that era still linger today. Number 13. Men never showing weakness. Masculinity meant toughness. If a man cried, he was told to pull himself together. If he struggled, he kept it quiet. The pressure to appear strong was immense. Silent suffering was honorable. Even illnesses were hidden. Men worked through pain, through grief, through everything. It wasn't bravery. It was expectation. Today, vulnerability is respected. Back then, it was something to hide. Number 14. Smoking everywhere. Cigarettes were practically part of the decor. At work, at home, on trains, in hospitals. Smoke drifted through every corner of British life. Bus drivers smoked. Teachers smoked in the staff room. Even pregnant women did, believing it helped calm the nerves. Ashtrays were gifts. Cigarette adverts promised glamour and health. The air was thick, and so was the denial. When the first no smoking signs appeared, people thought It was absurd. Today, lighting up indoors feels like lighting a fire alarm. But in the 60s, a room without smoke was the odd one out. Number 15. The world moved slower, and that was fine. Life in the 1960s in Britain was patient. Letters took days. Queues were long. Phones were rare. Plans changed slowly. People showed up when they said they would. Delays weren't disasters. They were normal. Now we expect instant. Everything: messages, meals, updates. But back then, the waiting was part of life. It gave space for thought. And sometimes that's what we've lost most of all. The 1960s weren't perfect, but they had a rhythm and certainty that shaped it. Some customs were stifling, some comforting, some just plain odd. But all of them built the world that came after. Looking back, we see how far we've come and maybe how much we've traded along the way. Which one of these surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories from Britain's past.